The text message pinged through, confirming my parents were officially out of state for the weekend. A wave of blissful solitude washed over me. The possibilities. A party? Maybe. But the thought of navigating crowded bars and forced conversations felt exhausting. Perhaps inviting a few girls over? The idea flickered, then faded. Tonight, I craved something simpler. Something more immersive. The Xbox, usually relegated to my cramped bedroom, was about to experience the glory of the living room's massive, wall-mounted TV, like a conquering king. I lugged it downstairs, cables trailing behind me. Red Dead Redemption 2 was the chosen champion for this night of solitary revelry. The opening cinematic filled the screen, the haunting score enveloping me. This wasn't just gaming. It was a digital escape, a temporary relocation to the untamed American West. Me, Arthur Morgan, and the vast open plain stretching before us. The real world, with all its petty dramas and obligations, could wait. For now, it was just me, the controller, and the promise of adventure under the digital sun. The weight of the real world lifted with each passing in-game sunset. Arthur's world became my world. The rhythmic clatter of hooves on dusty trails, the crackle of campfire under a star-strewn sky, the gruff camaraderie of the Van der Linde gang. It all felt more real, more tangible than the silence of my own house. Hours melted away. I hunted elk in the grizzlies, the snow crunching under my boots. I foiled a train robbery, the adrenaline pumping even though it was all simulated. I even took a leisurely fishing trip, finding a strange sense of peace in the digital wilderness. The immersion was complete. The line between me and Arthur blurred. I felt his weariness, his loyalty, his quiet desperation to find some semblance of good in a world rapidly changing around him. It was a perfect escape. So perfect, in fact, that I almost didn't hear the subtle click of the front door opening. A sound that would shatter my carefully constructed reality and drag me back into a situation far more complicated than any outlaw showdown. The clock on the wall read 2:03 a.m. The sudden influx of light momentarily blinded me. My sister, Sarah, stumbled through the doorway, a familiar sight on Friday nights. The local club scene seemed to have a permanent hold on her weekends. Usually, I just register her arrival as background noise, another sign that the night was winding down. But tonight was different. She mumbled a half-hearted hey in my general direction, already halfway to her room. Instinctively, I glanced up, expecting to see Mark, her boyfriend, trailing behind. They were practically inseparable. Except it wasn't Mark. This guy was taller, broader, with a dark shadow of stubble that Mark never sported. I didn't recognize him at all. They hurried past, Sarah pointedly avoiding eye contact, not even acknowledging my presence. It was as if I was a piece of furniture, an inconvenient obstacle in their path. The door to her room clicked shut, leaving me staring at the screen. The game suddenly muted, the immersion completely broken. The open plains of Red Dead felt a million miles away. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. The late hour, the stranger's presence, Sarah's furtive glances, her complete avoidance of me. It all screamed one thing: infidelity. A wave of disbelief washed over me, quickly followed by a surge of anger. Not just at Sarah, but at the situation itself. Mark was a genuinely good guy. We bonded over sports, shared the occasional beer. And he always treated my sister with respect, or so I thought. They had their issues, sure. I'd often overhear their arguments, Sarah's voice rising in frustration, sometimes dissolving into tears. But those felt like normal relationship squabbles, not grounds for this. The image of Mark's easygoing smile flashed in my mind. He didn't deserve this. No one did. The weight of the realization settled heavily on me, a stark contrast to the carefree escape I'd been enjoying just moments before. The digital gunslinger on the screen felt insignificant compared to the real-life drama unfolding just down the hall. My mind raced. Do I say something? Do I just pretend I didn't see anything and go back to my game? The immediate impulse was to barge into Sarah's room and confront her, demand an explanation. Maybe even drag Mark over and force her to confess. But that felt extreme. What if I was wrong? What if they'd already broken up, and I was just making assumptions? I could end up causing unnecessary drama, making things even more awkward. Then there was the option of messaging Mark directly. A quick, anonymous text. Hey, just so you know, Sarah brought someone home tonight. But that felt cowardly, and it could backfire spectacularly. What if he confronted her, and she denied it? He'd think I was a meddling idiot. And Sarah would never forgive me. Maybe I should just sleep on it. Talk to Sarah in the morning, get her side of the story, and then decide what to do. It felt like the most reasonable approach. Even though every fiber of my being wanted to do something, anything, to stop this train wreck before it happened. The indecision was agonizing. The sun streamed through the living room window, illuminating the aftermath of a Friday night well spent, or not. Sarah was slumped on the couch, a textbook definition of hungover. Her eyes were glued to her phone screen, scrolling endlessly as if the answers to life's great mysteries were hidden within Instagram. I bypassed the usual morning pleasantries. So, I began, my voice sharper than intended. Did you break up with Mark? Or did you just cheat on him? The question hung in the air, heavy and accusatory. Sarah froze, her eyes widening in a deer-in-the-headlights expression. For a moment, she was speechless, caught completely off guard. Then, the gears started turning. The initial shock gave way to a calculated look, a flicker of panic quickly masked by a practiced defense mechanism. The denial was immediate, though unspoken. I could see it in the way her jaw tightened, the way her fingers clenched around her phone. The performance was about to begin. The floodgates opened. You don't understand, she wailed, her voice laced with a practiced tremor. He's been such an ass lately. He never listens to me. He makes me feel like I'm not enough. The classic victim card. A carefully curated selection of grievances, designed to deflect blame and elicit sympathy. It was a performance I'd seen countless times before. Then came the waterworks. Genuine or not? I couldn't tell. Tears streamed down her face, blurring her mascara and adding to the overall dramatic effect. I wish I didn't do it, she sobbed. I regret cheating. The confession was delivered with a theatrical flourish, as if admitting her guilt somehow absolved her of it. The excuses kept coming, each one more flimsy than the last. A carefully constructed narrative designed to paint her as the wronged party, driven to desperate measures by Mark's supposed failings. It was a masterclass in emotional manipulation. So, how are you going to tell Mark? I asked, cutting through the theatrics. Her response was a blank stare, as if I'd just asked her to solve a complex equation in ancient Sumerian. I'm not going to tell him, she said, the words dripping with a chilling nonchalance. Are you kidding me? My temper flared. You're not going to tell him? You sleep with some random dude, and you're just going to pretend it never happened? The hypocrisy was astounding. She claimed she didn't want to hurt him, but actively choosing to deceive him was somehow less painful. You're an idiot, Sarah, I snapped, my voice rising. If you didn't want to hurt him, you wouldn't have cheated in the first place. Oh, so now you're the morality police? She retorted. her eyes narrowing. "It's not your business. You have no right to interfere." I stood my ground. "He's my friend, and you're hurting him. If you don't tell him, I will." The ultimatum hung in the air, a challenge thrown down. That evening, the doorbell rang. My heart sank. This was it. I braced myself for the inevitable explosion. The tearful confession, the awkward apologies. I half expected Sarah to intercept Mark at the door, whisking him away for a private conversation. Instead, she plastered on a fake smile and welcomed him inside as if nothing had happened. They settled on the couch, chatting about their day, laughing at some inside joke I wasn't privy to. The charade was sickening. It was like watching a play, a poorly acted drama where everyone knew the truth except for the unsuspecting protagonist. I wanted to scream, to rip the mask off her face and expose her deceit. But I held my tongue, remembering my ultimatum. One more day, one more chance for her to do the right thing. The tension in the room was palpable. A thick, suffocating blanket of unspoken words and hidden betrayals. I retreated to my room, the sound of their laughter echoing in my ears. A constant reminder of the lie that was unfolding downstairs. The next morning, I walked into the living room to find Sarah and Mark laughing over coffee, seemingly oblivious to the ticking time bomb beneath the surface. Sarah shot me a death glare, a silent warning to keep my mouth shut. It was on. "Hey, Mark," I said, my voice deliberately casual. "Just so you know, Sarah had a guy over here Friday night." The silence was instant and deafening. The laughter died in Mark's throat. Sarah's face went through a rapid series of color changes. White, then red, then a shade of purple I didn't know existed. "Are you serious?" she hissed, her voice trembling with rage. "Why would you say that? It's not like that." Mark looked from me to Sarah, his expression a mixture of confusion and dawning horror. The realization hit him slowly, like a punch to the gut. The casual facade crumbled, revealing the raw vulnerability beneath. He saw the truth in Sarah's eyes, in her desperate attempts to deny the undeniable. The nuclear meltdown had begun. Sarah and Mark retreated to her room, the muffled sounds of their argument filtering through the walls. It was a cacophony of raised voices, choked sobs, and slammed doors. The tension was unbearable. I wanted to disappear, to rewind time and undo my impulsive decision. But it was too late. The truth was out, and the fallout was inevitable. After what felt like an eternity, Mark emerged from the room, his eyes red and swollen. He looked like he'd just been hit by a train. He offered a weak, watery smile. "Thanks, man," he mumbled, his voice barely above a whisper. Then he turned and walked out the door, leaving a gaping hole in the silence. Sarah stormed out of her room moments later, her face contorted with rage. "You ruined everything," she screamed, her voice shaking with fury. "You had no right. This is all your fault." The full force of her anger was directed at me, a torrent of accusations and recriminations. The parental cavalry arrived home late Sunday afternoon, oblivious to the emotional carnage that had unfolded in their absence. I expected them to be furious with Sarah, to reprimand her for her actions. I was wrong. Instead, they were angry with me. "You shouldn't have gotten involved," my mom scolded, her voice tight with disapproval. "It wasn't your place. She made a mistake, but you made it worse." My dad chimed in, echoing her sentiments. They were more upset with me for making things messy than they were with Sarah for cheating in the first place. It was infuriating. Sarah, the actual perpetrator of the betrayal, was treated with kid gloves, her mistake excused as a youthful indiscretion. I, on the other hand, was cast as the villain. the meddling instigator who had disrupted the family peace. It was a classic case of shooting the messenger. Sarah, as always, managed to escape accountability. Shielded by a combination of parental favoritism and her own manipulative charm. Lying in bed that night, I replayed the events of the weekend in my head. Had I done the right thing? Should I have just stayed out of it? The answer, it seemed, was a resounding yes. I'd caused irreparable damage, alienated my sister, and earned the disapproval of my parents. All in the name of, what? Justice? Morality? In the end, it didn't matter. Mark was gone, Sarah was furious, and I was the scapegoat. The family dynamic remained unchanged. A toxic cycle of enabling and excusing. I was just a temporary disruptor, a rogue element in their carefully constructed reality. Maybe I should have just stayed in my room. Lost in the virtual world of Red Dead Redemption 2. At least there, my actions had consequences I could control. Living in a house full of NPCs, I realized, was a losing game. Next time, I'd keep my head down and let them play out their predetermined scripts. The NPCs had won,